Hey onesies, Josh Williams here, and thanks for checking out the One Man Podcast. There's now over 200 episodes and dozens of bonus interviews, all of which are available at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, and many more. And you know what? If you don't have any of those apps, no big deal, because you can listen anytime at onemanpodcast.com. So be sure to subscribe because it's always free and there's a new episode out every Wednesday. And while you're at it, leave a review. It's a great way to help the podcast and it doesn't cost you a thing. Follow One Man Podcast on all the major socials and you'll get bonus content and pictures, fun stuff for yourself. And finally, if you have something that you want read on the show, send it to contact@onemanpodcast.com because if you send it, I'll read it on an upcoming episode. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy.
What's up, everybody? This is DJ Demers.
I'm K. Trevor Wilson.
Hey, it's Krista Allen.
Hi, this is Rick Mercier.
What's up, guys? This is Paul Verzi, and you are listening to the One Man Podcast. Yeah!
My name is Josh Williams, and welcome to the One Man Podcast, episode number 208 for Wednesday, May 5th, 2021. How's it going, onesies? How are you guys doing? How's your week treating you? Everything going well? May 5th, right? Revenge of the 5th. Everybody was, may the 4th be withing you. Yeah, may the 4th be with you. I don't know. All day yesterday, everyone had those. There was the odd person who was like, hey, Star Wars sucks. And that was just their post out there in the universe. Everybody loves to poo-poo when they don't belong. I haven't liked Star Wars in a long time, but it's still a cute little May the 4th. My mom's got her Bitmoji where she's dressed as a Jedi, and she sent that to everybody. May the 4th be with you. Like, everyone's having fun. I got a meme that I posted on my story, which was The Mandalorian, which is the first Star Wars property that's been good in a long time. And it just, it has the May the 4th crossed out. It has the Revenge of the 5th crossed out, and it just says, this is the May, which is cute. You know what? I used to, when I was younger, poo-poo on cutesy shit, but you know what? People are just having fun. Why you gotta shit on people when they're having a good time, right? I'm doing this early morning Wednesday. I've been up since 5 o'clock today, and it's 10:30. I've got almost nothing done. I was going to record the podcast yesterday, but I still had to work on stuff. And I will be honest, my note sheet right here on my clipboard went from like having one thing at the top of it for like the entire week, still having to work on my top 5 and everything, which by the way has gotten some decent feedback. A few people have mentioned that they like this idea of a top 5 list. And I like it too. It gives me something to come up with, topic of conversation that's just sort of not super close to me in the sense that it's not like, oh, hey, this is a personal thing that happens this week. It's just the idea that I can get a thing out and that just gives us some talking. It'll fill time. It's filler, like rice or potatoes. It's just filler. But I try to put a little bit of spice in it, right? Drop a brick of cream cheese and then potatoes. Boom, little garlic. Oh. So what I'm trying to say is just, I spent a lot of time yesterday. I also have, a book that I've been reading called Belief, which I told you guys I was reading, and I'm only half done. But I'm going to review it now because I've got other books, and I will finish it. But I'll tell you what I think of it. If you get halfway through a book, you know what I mean. You can give your thoughts. And it's a short story book, so I'll tell you about that a little later on. I watched a movie. I watched many movies. But I've watched. Maybe I'll bring them up later if we have time. But I've got a lot of stuff to talk about here. I had a friend. Well, he is a friend. He is also a former partner with Open Mic Mondays and everything. He was over here doing his taxes with Jason, and we chatted a little bit. I'll tell you about that. Just a couple little random yak topics that I've got for you guys. I'm feeling good. I'm not ready to share with. I have something special going on in my life. No, but I'm feeling good lately, and I will share more with you guys when there's more to share. But just for the time being, knowing I spent some time this week doing something, made me feel good. Got a little. The old guy's got a little bit of hope back in his life here. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good, gang. Feeling good. Got some stuff to talk about. Got an email from a onesie, which I will read to you a little later on. And, it's been a good week. I've just had some chats with friends. I'm feeling good. I'm also feeling like a little useless too. So I've got a talking point here that I'll bring up But yeah, I got all sorts of shit. So I got a list here in front of me of all sorts of different things to say. I'll tell you guys about all that fun stuff. And I've even started like color coding my notes, where I used to just like write all these bullet points down of all sorts of things I wanted to talk about. And then, I would do stuff like personal stories, and then I would have things like talking about movies, or then talking about like some fun gig stuff or whatever it is. And I would have to like, rather than just like going down the list, right? Because I just sort of hit shit as I think of it and put it on the list. Now I'm starting to like highlight things with different colored highlighters. So things that are along the same vein. Like, for what it's worth, I do my best to organize my chaos, as much as like me coming in and sitting down in front of the microphone and like I really do try to make it kind of work. So I've got things color coded now to try to keep the topics in the same vein. So we're working on it, guys, slowly but surely. It's okay. It's only taken me 4 years to get mildly organized with this, but I don't know. I'm feeling good. So, let's just start with some small stuff. You know what I mean? My mom got her vaccine. I drove my mom down to City Hall to get her vaccine last week. And, she was one of those people. My mom is like, oh, wow, really? We're yawning already? It's 10:30 in the morning, and I've got a cup of coffee in me already, and we're yawning. Oh, yeah, there's the whole, like, intermittent fasting thing I didn't even write down. I'm on, like, day 3 of attempting to do intermittent fasting, and I reset all my alarms and everything like that. So let's just go ahead and do that, and I'll be sure, because I don't even know if I spelled that right. Let's just write fasting. Intermittent. Yeah, I look forward to your emails. I'll tell you guys what I've been doing, and then you can send me the emails and tell me what I'm doing wrong. So there's that. Oh, the yawn. I'm gonna have to get to the slurping point too, because like I have onesies that listen. Sorry, gang. I actually had to like Google signs of insomnia this week too, because my sleeping is beyond just like, oh, well, I just go to sleep whenever I'm tired. Now it's like I've actively stayed up and tried to like, okay, I'm going to be good and tired and go to bed, and then just no dice. Like, so I went to sleep around 1 or 1:30 at 1:30 at the absolute latest. And then I woke up at 5 and, been banging away at stuff. Oh God. Like I said, I got onesies that'll tell me like literally they tell me that they laugh out loud when they hear me yawning, because they're just like, like, how do I expect you to be interested when I'm interested? I'm just exhausted. So Googled signs of insomnia, because like now I'll lay in bed for like hours, try to wear myself out by staying up, and be like, okay, I'll fall asleep at around midnight or something. And then it's just like 7 a.m. I'm still like wide awake. I'm like, I've been up for 24 hours and why am I not tired? I'm like, do I have insomnia? So there's all sorts of goofy stuff going on with yours truly. But yeah, I got intermittent fasting is something I'm doing. My acid reflux at the moment is through the fucking roof. And I don't know if I can take, some like antacids and stuff. I don't know if there's calories in those, which you would think if you're suffering, but I'm like, you know what? I'm only a few hours away. Let's just get into that. How about that? How about we just get into intermittent fasting? This weekend, I was just really kind of not eating a lot. I didn't really feel hungry. I don't know if I was oh, here's another yawn. Okay, let's stifle that one. I don't know if I was depressed or anything. I just didn't feel super hungry. I was also like, I don't want to say distracted with stuff. Like I notice I don't eat when I'm distracted, but then normally it'll be like if I'm playing a game or something like that and I'm wicked into it, I'll look up, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, well, I haven't eaten since, 2. So I'm good. It's a good thing I didn't say like it'll be 2 a.m. I'm like, oh, I haven't eaten since 1, because that happens too. But 1 p.m. versus 2 a.m. You guys are like, oh, it's been an hour for you. So I'd make something late night, which is awful. And then, you're asleep a few hours later. So it's just the worst. And it's such a broad time frame of eating and stuff. So I noticed on Sunday I hadn't really eaten. I wasn't feeling particularly hungry. Not that I hadn't eaten at all, but I had like 1 meal on Sunday. And so I figured, you know what, maybe I'll just take this opportunity to just give intermittent fasting a try. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people who've gotten results from that. I know keto is something I'd like to try too, but fasting and keto at the same time is way too much. And I'm not somebody who's overly disciplined to begin with. So I figure, okay, let's just try the intermittent fasting. Can I eat what I want and just do it in a smaller window? So, I've actually been kind of just eating like, one big meal so far. And I even say big meal, totally not balanced. Like, I'll give you an example. So Sunday I had, what did I have on Sunday? Like steak skewers and Brussels sprouts. It was amazing. It was amazing. And it was like, that was pretty balanced, some greens and some meat. And there was no carbs, unless you kind of count like, there was a little bit of a sauce on the steak skewers, but all in all, my entire day's intake of carbs and another yawn. Guys, I wish I could stifle it. I think I'm trying to push back the yawns, and it's just making them come back. So I'm getting these little like half yawns. I might have to just fucking and just yawn it out. But sorry, train of thought. Intermittent fasting. Yeah, there might have been some carbs in the sauce, right? Because the sugars and stuff like that. But I think you're allowed a manageable amount of carbs. Manageable. I would say a negligible amount of carbs, every day, but, and then that certainly would fit the profile, I would say. So, that was good. That would have been keto and, intermittent fasting that day. So I just did, on Monday, I had 2 burgers that I put a little bit of egg around too. I had 2 like Light Life burgers, the Harvey's, Beyond Meat equivalent. So I fried those up in the pan. And then I just did this thing once they were cooked. I just love to cook, shit into eggs. So I just, you can get a burger and put a fried egg on top. People are like, oh, wow, fancy. I'm just like, boom, egg whites into the frying pan and fry it into the burgers, fold them over the burgers, flip them over. And now I basically just have like an egg wrapped burger. It's delicious. So I had 2 of those on buns. There goes the keto out the window. Again, not that was ever the goal. But threw them on the burger or on the buns, and I put like a jalapeno lime aioli on them, and not a shit ton. And that was it. That's what I ate all day. So and then so I'm trying to give myself this range, because my understanding is that like your body burns the food or whatever, the carbs in its system, blah blah blah, for like 12 hours. Also could be a reason why I'm feeling tired too, because I haven't been eating a lot, but. That one I'm like, well, it's plant-based, right? It's like a pea protein burger. So I'm like, there's some plant in there and whatnot, some carbs and some fucking, protein in the eggs? Eggs have protein, right? I know they have cholesterol. Anyways, this is welcome to the One Man Podcast. This is where I sit and I talk and I wonder about all the things I don't know out loud to myself and to my listeners, because for some reason, that's the content that I create. So anyways, yeah, I did those 2 burgers, and, that was Monday. So my plan for my intermittent fasting is 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. It's a 6-hour window. And as I was saying, this was one of the things I was saying before, that my understanding is that, your body burns the carbs or something like that, or whatever is burning food and burning what's already in your system for like 12 hours. Of the 24-hour cycle. So, if you can not eat for, say, a lot of people like give yourself like an 8-hour window. I'm giving myself a 6-hour window. But give yourself an 8-hour window, and then you have like 4 hours, right? So there's a 16-hour where you're not eating. So like the 12 hours, it's burning what's in your system. And then that other 4 hours, it's going to burn like the extra fat and stuff like that. Well, I have a surplus of energy that my body can burn. So, I'm going with the 6 hours. Tuesday, yesterday, I just threw like a frozen pizza in the oven. I also took that Light Life burger and I crushed it up. I got a lot of those things left over from the Harvey's activation. So I basically took it and turned it into ground meat. And then I sprinkled it on top of just a basic, a small thin crust, frozen pizza. I put the Light Life burger on top. I've also got this goat cheese that I need to use. So I put goat cheese on top of it as well. And, it was good. A little barbecue sauce. I got a picture of it. And then I had these local pickles, in a little jar of local pickles, farm pickles, whatever you call them, artisan created, whatever pickles that were fucking delicious. And that was it. I had that pizza and, half a jar of pickles. I was going to finish the jar of pickles in the evening, but I was doing a bunch of shit. And then I looked at it, you know what? I'm way past my time. And just for the sake of eating what would have been half a pickle, I'm like, I'll wait. I'll eat it today or something like that. So, today is day 3. day 3 of intentional fasting. Sunday just happened to be, but day 3 of intentional fasting and intermittent fasting. And I am very hungry this morning, but if I found myself, just being up and whatnot. I think late at night is the hardest part, like just, trying to be like, don't eat late. But I am hungry, let me tell you. And it is 10:30 in the morning and I want to eat. So I've got 2.5 hours. My time frame is 1 to 7. That's right. So I have like a late lunch and standard supper, and then that's it. And I've reset. I'm doing a lot to be disciplined in the sense that I want to get up earlier. I like the idea of getting up early and going to bed at a reasonable time. So like my bedtime, I've kind of got myself set for like 10 o'clock. So I've never been an 8 hours of sleep kind of guy. I know it's important, but if I can get 7 in, if I go to bed at 10 and get up at 5, woo, and not yawn for the rest of my life, I would like that. I like that very much. Which is basically saying like, I'm going to be saying goodbye to my PlayStation group because everyone gets on like late night and stays up late. But 10 o'clock's reasonable. That would give me a couple hours of just fuck around time with my peeps. And, sorry guys, this is just, I guess, getting the admin stuff out. I'm working on something, right? You guys are always super supportive. I thought I'd let you know that I'm trying this. I got a fasting book, which I should read to make sure, because I know that's the messages I'm going to get from you guys is make sure you're doing it right. Make sure you take care of you. I know. And my body will speak to me and tell me if it's not getting what it needs. And I'm not one of those people who's like, shut up, body. I've never been one of those people that like, you see people in the movies as like, hey, aspirin, take 2, at most. And you see people grab like 4 or 5 of them, fire them back, and then like chug vodka. I'm like, can you even do that? Taking pills with booze? Like I've always been one to like, yeah, no, I'll give my body what it needs. And I'm not going to be hard on it. I've been hard on it, but I'm not going to be like, yeah, now you're going to fucking starve the other way. I don't want to basically convert one eating disorder into another one. So my position on everything is just, I'm going to just keep doing it. And, a lot of people too think like intermittent fasting. It's like, well, yeah, if you have a 6-hour window, you can still do a lot of damage in that 6 hours. Absolutely. That's why I'm just mindful of portions and everything like that. I'm not exactly counting calories at the moment, but considering I've been having one meal, I've not been eating, definitely not been eating 2,000 to 2,500 calorie meals. So, I stepped on the scale recently. And I'm 200, fuck, I wish, 313 pounds. So I remember before the pandemic, I had got myself under 300 pounds. I think I was actually down to about 290 and, and maybe even in the 280s, which is not the best I've ever done since I got big, but it was a start. I was like 320, I think 320 point anything, I think was the most I've ever weighed. And I remember just when I got down to 290, I'm like, okay, we're not going over 300 again. Like people gain weight or whatever, but I'm like, I'm 10 pounds away from 300. 10 pounds is a lot of weight to put on. So I'm like, we're not doing that again. Right. And then of course with the pandemic and blame and not whatever, just with life, with whatever, I remember just getting on the scale at one point and seeing like 316. I was like, are you like all of it? I've put like 26 fucking pounds back on. So, I am currently at 313, and I'll do accountability check-ins and everything like that on the podcast so you guys can hear what's going on with me. But, I want to bring that number down. I want to make it work this time, guys. Like I said, I'm actually kind of feeling good for the first time in a long time. And I want to use that as momentum to finally get this ship on course. I've had so many wonderful people, just, say like, oh, they heard me talking about trying to take better care of myself. And they said that they were inspired based on what I said. And I'm like, well, I appreciate that. And I'm so glad. Listen, if I can, if I can inspire, I have a real hard time believing that I'm capable of inspiration. But I'm grateful for those of you who said, and people were posting results and whatever. I was like, really? Like that? I mean, thank you. But that's yeah. So I want to make you guys proud too. You know what I mean? Like you guys are just me talking about it. Like, yeah, I should. And then you guys go out and do it. And I'm like, oh yeah, see, I fell off that fucking wagon. But yeah, so we'll keep this intermittent fasting thing going. I will let you guys know how it goes. Yeah. And I'm excited. 313 is where we're at right now. And, I'm hoping to make more accountability. I had this thought, and I really don't think I have the balls to do it, but you know how people will post like their before and after pictures when they lose weight? Part of me is like, you know, like, hey, that'd be great. And it would be great to take a before picture and then just whatever. But like part of me almost wants to post the before picture before there's any results, just because of how like embarrassing it would be. You know what I mean? Like me taking my shirt off is a nightmare. You know, I'm a pretty confident guy in a lot of regards, but just people seeing me in all my big glory. I feel like part of me was like, well, what if you just post that? Then won't you be motivated to just not be that? You know what I mean? Like rather than waiting till you have the after picture, you know, to post, why don't you just do that? And maybe that'll inspire you to like not be that, so that even if someone sees you in 6 months, it's like, oh yeah, but that was 6 months ago. And you're like, you look great. I don't know. And then doesn't like shaming myself into losing weight or something. And then if I don't, it's just like, man, now you know what I look like too. So anyways, I'll share more with you when I have it, gang. But that's what I've been working on so far. As I mentioned, my mom's got her first shot. She's kind of like, my mom is, I don't want to say an anti-vaxxer. My mom is, and I think I started to talk about this earlier. My mom is the person, I can't remember. I was talking to Mahad, my friend on the Harvey's tour, and he was saying how like he was watching something or reading something about how like senior citizens are like the worst consumers and distributors of like false information, whatever. My mom is, you know, I don't want to call her this, but my mom's like an anti-vaxxer because she's probably like other seniors. I'm going to call them old people because that's what we fucking call them when we're not being recorded. All right. Like other old people who've lived life, whatever, they don't understand that everything, that everything on the internet is not true. You know what I mean? And just because your friend, it's like, oh, my friend Helen posted this thing, blah, blah. It's like, well, Helen didn't fucking write it. Just because you trust Helen, you know, she just shared it. And you just shared Helen's post, and you guys are fucking putting all this information out there like it's all true. My mom messages me via Facebook, fucking videos like 10 times a day, you know, and it's like, look at this, fucking police are going to be monitoring your internet. Like she doesn't listen to this podcast, so I feel safe saying it, but I don't watch any of the stuff that she sends me. I'm like, thanks, I'll check it out. I don't watch any of it, you know? And I'm not going to sit there and lecture her like, Mom, you can't, so I would imagine that she probably saw like all the Jenny McCarthy bullshit a while ago, and just like, oh, vaccines can cause da-da. And it's like, yeah, but, so like, I'm stuck in between too, because like, I've got people I care about who are like, I don't want to just take the vaccine. Like my position is like, this vaccine feels rushed. There's already like side effects, you know, like blood clots and things that seem to be coming up from like 2 of the 3 providers. There's the AstraZeneca one, Moderna, and Pfizer. Those are the 3 that I'm aware of. And I thought there was only 2, but the AstraZeneca has said to have clots and apparently the Moderna one has been, Pfizer has been said to have less percentage of clotting. But I guess this is my current understanding based on zero research, just word of mouth, is that from what people are saying, the Moderna is the best one, and then Pfizer, and then AstraZeneca. AstraZeneca seems to be the one that the vast majority of people are getting. Myself, I'm not in a hurry for the vaccine, even though you guys have heard the chronicles of my roommates and everything like that. I'm just being careful around everybody. So when it comes to be my time, I'm 38, right? They were releasing things for people 40 plus. Jason's already got his shot. I don't know if Kamar got his, but I don't even know if Simon knows what the fuck is going on in the world. So, Yeah, she got hers. She was, she probably wouldn't have got it on her own, but she works, the big company. She works for the government basically. And, she was saying that she was getting a lot of pressure from people around her to take a vaccine, to get the vaccine. So I don't think anyone should, inject something into their body based on peer pressure. I think you should educate yourself and know the risks and then make an educated decision. But, if it's going to protect her from COVID, I'm happy. I think she should get it. I think that the rewards well outweigh the risks. But the flip side of the coin for me, like I said, in the middle is like, I've got my mom who's like, oh, the vaccines are bad. And it's like, well, no, they're not. And then you have Jason, ever fool, head in the clouds. The government's your friend, and the drug companies, why would they not want to heal you? Moron with there's no problem with the disease. Like, he's walking around running his mouth like he always does about fucking, there's only 0.2% blood clots percentage, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's like, why are you always arguing against, the facts? Like, it's still a risk. It's still a risk. You know what I mean? Apparently my mom was saying that genetically my family has like a history of blood clots or whatever. So, best to avoid the ones that have the chance of clotting. Best to avoid. Right now I'm avoiding it just in general. Just because there's other people who are more productive members of society that need that shot. So, since everyone's fighting over the shots, you guys go ahead and have them. I will sit here in my room and talk to my wall. That's what I can do to help everybody out. My tennis elbow is doing better. It still hurts. There's still lots of shit I can't do. It's still really tight. It's still painful. But I had a great human being reach out to me. Brent in Calgary. Thank you so much. Brent's the owner of Racket Network. So they have a store in Calgary. I believe they have 2 stores, but I could be wrong. I know they have an online store and then they have a brick and mortar. So I don't know if I thought they had 2 brick and mortars, and I might be right, but Racket Network, RACQUET network. I didn't know how to spell racket. I'm like RACKET, but I double checked because I know that I think the word racket is spelled differently. Anyways, I made sure that's the name of the business. So, they know their shit. Racket Sports, they restring things, like rackets and all sorts of stuff. So like they know their shit about those sports. And, Brent has got experience with, tennis elbow. So he just kindly reached out and was like, hey man, as soon as you started mentioning, like he was talking about, me mentioning my tennis elbow, and he was like, hey, just so you know, here's a bunch of he took the time to like break down the different things and treatment methods and sort of physio steps and stuff to take, which is so incredibly kind. I'm so grateful for, so I want to give him a shout out on the podcast and say thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to do that. Like, rather than just like, hey man, yeah, you should do physio, whatever, like broke it down for me, put it into steps, you know what I mean? And I'm super grateful for that. So I've been doing, some of the stuff. I've been watching some YouTube videos. I can tell you that I've been completely undisciplined in terms of like, hey, make sure you do this amount of times a day. I've started creating, I had to create some, ice packs, because I got to like ice it off and on to sort of get the blood moving and stuff in the tendon / muscle. So I started icing. I iced my elbow this morning. I did do that. But I was supposed to do like 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off, 20 minutes on. I didn't do that yet. I will do that this afternoon. But yeah, I mean, to take time out of your day to be like, hey man, here's your like recovery regime. I was like, that's, I'm going to be honest. I was touched by it. It was super, super kind. And, I can't even begin to say how grateful I am for that. So, thank you, Brent, for taking the time of your day to reach out with that. Honestly, like super, that's the thing with me, guys, is, I mean, you've known me long enough to know that not everything I'm really hard to organize myself. You know what I mean? Like I will, it took me like a few days to even just watch like a 5-minute YouTube video on the subject after going to the hospital, So for me, it's like, if you take the time to like spell it out for me, like, I guess, embarrassingly enough, I'm more of like a spoon-fed person in some regards. Like, you'd think like, hey, this is your health. You want to take care of yourself. I'm like, there's a lot of shit where I'm like, I know that there's a psychological barrier with me where like, I feel like if I it's nice to know what something is, and it's nice to know that there's like options. But I always go back to that belief thing where like I don't believe it's going to happen or whatever, and I'm always worried. And if I start researching it, so like when someone takes the time to like break it down and just, here you go, this is what you need, I'm like, it means a lot, because it actually makes things a lot easier for me. I don't have to fight with myself as hard psychologically. I'm not saying that like for the rest of my life, everyone should do my research and shit for me. It would be great if I could tell the kind of dick jokes that would fill theaters all over the world, and then I could hire someone to do that. Hey, I need this, go do it. An assistant would be phenomenal. But in terms of just people, like I said, that's why it means so much to me, like that someone takes the time to break things down for me. I had a friend, Vanessa, who I chatted with this week too. My friend, Vanessa, got me a doctor. Like, and I didn't even forget, we were, this was a few years ago. But just, it was the same thing. I was talking about this with someone this week, just saying like my friend Vanessa, we were chatting. I was saying how I didn't have a family doctor, and, you know, there's some stuff that I wanted to get. And her and I were just chatting. She's like, yeah, the doctor I have, I like him. He's really great, blah, 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 blah. You know, I'll see if he's taking patients. And a lot of people are nice. And I don't even believe that they don't mean it when they say it, but you just think that someone's like, oh yeah, I'll ask for you. But it's like, it slips their mind. I know that I'm super capable of it. When I say it, I mean it, but I forget so much shit. And then I saw Vanessa like a week or so later, and she's like, here's his number. I saw him earlier today. He said he'd take you on as a client. They're waiting for your call, like literally spoon feeding it to me. And I'm like, oh, I don't have to go looking for like a doctor. I think I called like 3 doctors, like years before. Like I was trying to find a doctor and like opened up the book for like, or Googled it or whatever, and just started calling doctors. I think I called like 2 or 3, and like the first one accepted me. And then I was with them for a while, and I hated it. Like she looked at me like everything that I had, like she looked like I was full of shit with everything I had. I had a lump on my side, like in my abdomen, that causes me pain. And she just was like, oh, it's a lymphoma, so like, don't worry about it. And I'm like, okay, great. It's not cancer. What the fuck is it? It hurts. Like I can't twist and turn, and like core exercises hurt, you know? So like, it's great that it's not going to kill me, but it's killing me. You know what I mean? Like it hurts. And so I just remember that. So like, I got to the point where I'm like, well, okay, well, looking for another doctor. Like, are we going to do this? No, and if I trust somebody, you know what I mean? Like a friend who's like, hey, here you go. That's great. I mean, I guess that's why seniors like, oh, my friend Helen posted this, do not get poked with what. It's like, yeah, well, you think it's Helen didn't write it. Helen got confused by someone else, and now you're sharing Helen's shit, whether you know it's right or not. Like, that's the thing. You can find articles online that will support any wacky fucking mentality that you have. You know, I watched some guy posted a video about rosacea and how he uses some fucking, I can't even remember the first word, something silver. And it's like vibrated silver poles in water, and it's like microscopic silver. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I don't know what that does, but so I Google it, right? Okay, this guy swears by it. He's like, I'm not giving medical advice. I'm not a doctor, but this has worked for me. I had rosacea. Now I don't have it at all. Like, it's great. You know, and he wasn't selling anything. It was just his YouTube video. Then I start looking into it, and it's like, yeah, there's nothing that supports that there's anything positive about it. Like, people are even saying that like that kind of silver tinctures or whatever could be used to cure AIDS and cancer and things like that. And I'm just like, for Christ's sakes, like, you know, you can find everything on the internet that supports and doesn't support. It's tough. It's tough being a person consuming information, you know, and just because the person that you read it from or hear it from you trust, it doesn't mean that they know what the fuck they're talking about. So anyways, isn't that a positive? Bitchy complainy pants. So yeah, I'll get the vaccine when it's time. In the meantime, I'm just trying to be the entertainer. You know, I'm not in a hurry to get vaccinated. And I get that too. Again, speaking with my friend Vanessa, actually, sorry, the point that I was making wasn't about the vaccine, it was just about these people reaching out. So thank you, Vanessa, for years ago getting me in touch with the doctor. Thank you very much, Brent, for the list of physio and regime to get this tennis elbow. Cause Brent was the first one who even gave me a time frame, right? Like I even asked the doctor and he just like shrugged at me. So Brent was kind of like 9 months with physio, a year without, but it'll heal regardless, just how quickly. And I was like, all right, well, that at least, 6 months from now, it still hurts. I won't be like, oh my God, am I going to have this for the rest of my life? Like at least there's a time frame. I also, just speaking with my friend Vanessa, like she's somebody, there's a few people in my life who are just like insane workhorses. They do their job. They're also the kind of person where everybody comes to them and dumps jobs on them. And they're good people. They try to help people out. They take on, not to be judgmental, but they take on work that isn't theirs. You know what I mean? They try to help out and people take advantage of their good nature and they tell themselves, this is what I think. This is my armchair opinion. So I'm not saying I'm right, but there's people in your life that, like they tell themselves like, well, it's my job. And it's like, yeah, but it's not. You know what I mean? Like your job is to manage people. Your job isn't to clean up. Like you're not a janitor where it's like, hey, your job is to tell people to do things, but if they don't do them, make sure you do it yourself. You know what I mean? And so there's good people that I know that work fucking hard. And I tell you right now, I can't even begin to understand how they do it. And I mean that. Like I understand what each individual task is, but to be able to like manage and organize and compartmentalize all these different things. Like I can tell you right now, I'm getting anxious and overwhelmed just thinking about this. Like I'll talk with them and they'll tell me about their day and stuff. And I'm just like, how do you do that? You know what I mean? Like I remember when I worked for cell phones, one of the last jobs I had before, like I'm kind of now, like I like the marketing stuff. Because it's easy, but like I use the resource that I'm good at, which is like personality and humor and interaction and stuff like that. But listening to people with jobs where they're like, oh yeah, I had to send this emails and I had to fill out these forms and there was incident reports. Like I remember every time I would have a job and they're like, here's where the health and safety binder is. And if there's an incident report in my brain, I swear to God, in my brain, I'm going, I'm never filling out that. I don't give a fuck if I cut my finger off. I'm not fucking sitting around writing reports. It's non-negotiable in a lot of jobs. In every job that has one, it should be a non-negotiable. But I'm saying that there's some jobs where it's like, no, that incident report is everything. I have a friend who's a paramedic and it's like reports. I got all this extra paperwork to fucking, you know what I mean? It's the worst. That drives me insane. Just in the sense that like, and they have to do all this shit. Organizing this and guys, there's people in my life it's not my place to say what they do and how hard they work. But I listen as a support, support center, a support person to just like, tell me what's going on with you. And it weighs heavy on them. I remember when I was doing the cell phone sales before marketing. And like I said, I had to constantly learn all of the new promotions, the telecommunications industry is very competitive and it's constantly changing. And that's just that one thing. It's just like, okay, just know what every competitor is offering and at what price and what promotions we have. And it was just like memorizing all of that stuff and constantly reading paperwork, constantly going to computers and then having like IT issues where like, oh, I can't access this person's platform or their portal or whatever. And just like, I can't tell you how like it was killing me. I hated it. And it's not that hard. I'm not saying it's hard. I'm saying that I'm just not built for it. I would have to do an intense amount of meditating and therapy and stuff just to get my brain to a place where it's not as scatterbrained. And maybe I'm just unhealthy. And maybe, if I went for walks, I'd have more mental clarity or something. If I read more, put down the technology, there's probably a lot of things, but where I sit right now, the idea of being able to do all those things is so overwhelming to me that I'm okay with being the entertainer. You know what I mean? I'm okay with being your release from that. Like, in fact, I think that's why my job, and the job of a comedian is important. Doing these days of just shit that I just won't do that stuff. I can't get one of those jobs. I've thought about it several times during the pandemic as just, should I just give up and get the government job, whatever, but like, I can't. I don't know what the fuck I would do. Hats off to all of you. I'm not saying doing paperwork would kill me, but I'm saying like portals, call IT and get this fixed. Like I'm so impatient too, that if like something needs fixing, like I want to do it right now. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't want to not be able to do things. I was talking with Vanessa, and she's kind of works like a government where it's one of those things where like they crush all innovation, and drive out of you, in the sense where like if you see the opportunity to innovate something, you're like, hey, this isn't working really well, and I found a way. They're like, okay, well, what we'll do is we'll submit it to this department. They'll take about 4 to 6 weeks to get back to us and let us know if maybe we could. And by the time they get back to you, you don't care anymore. You've already found a workaround, or you've just gone and done the same thing that everybody else does. Like it's just not designed for innovation and growth and things like that. So just, and if you're a creative person, you're like, I want to find ways to fix things. I want to make things better. Like I'm always striving for, like that old saying, the only constant is change, but except in the government, you know what I mean? Or in a lot of, I guess, office things like this. I think that's kind of cool that's one of the positives of COVID, is that it's forced change on a lot of old archaic things, like, the office jobs and stuff like that. Like, do we really all need to be together? You know what I mean? Like we can do teleconferencing or whatever. Like I get that, in the 50s, all the electricity and all the computers were linked there. There was no internet or anything like that. Well, the internet exists now, and we can email things to each other, and we can print shit at home, or we can just scan with our phones, right? Take a picture of it or whatever. Like there's a lot of shit that's changed, except that old setup didn't. So we're learning that there's things, like some things you have to do in person, right? You can't be a bakery from home, theoretically. Maybe you can. Shut up. Everyone has been. The bread on the social media. Everyone's making bread. I don't know. There's certain things that you just can't be from home. You know what I mean? You got to have the brick and mortar or whatever it is. And I get that. But these offices where you're sitting in front of a computer in a cubicle, I'm sure there's benefits to it, right? It's easy to get out of why do you think people like to work in Starbucks? Get out of your space and get into another space where you can focus just on work. Like I get that, but it's just that it's not like, oh, well, the only way we can work is here, and especially in things like the government. It's not like I've talked to people who in businesses are like, well, yeah, when we're all in the same office, like we can get answers quick. I'm like, that's not the government. They don't need to be there to get answers quick, because that doesn't happen. So anyways, it's fascinating to me, but I'm comfortable being the entertainer. I'm okay with making this podcast and doing stand-up and stuff so that, like, while you're sitting at your desk, and if that's where you guys listen, thank you very much. I'm hoping that all my yawning is not detrimental to your day. But I think that I'm okay with, like, hey, I'll sit here and I'll embarrass the shit about myself. I've got some embarrassing fucking topics on this list this week, and I'm okay to embarrass myself. I can humiliate myself so much easier than I can sit down and write an incident report. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe it's a gift, really. But that's where I'm at, is I think I'm getting comfortable. Like I want that discipline of those people, but a lot of them they don't look happy. Like if they looked happy and I was like, fuck yeah, I need to do that. Like the goofballs at like Shopify and Google, right? Working in these like magical places where, they have slides and shit like that at work. I would say those people look like they're having fun, but at the same time, they've also got like a ridiculous amount of like computer engineering training and schooling, and how competitive it must be to have their jobs. Like I'm sure that there's stresses too, but, I think it's easier for me to talk about my dick to strangers than it is for me to, become a programmer or the office worker or whatever. And you know what? That's more money, but I'm okay. I'm all right just living my life right now. Am I okay with it? I feel like I'm okay with it. Didn't you just say you were 316 pounds? All right. There's not such great things about what's going on right now, but again, I can still do that with a regular job too. So yeah, the Tap Dancing Monkey is totally happy to take your requests. You want some entertainment? You let me know what you guys need. All right. I'll talk about whatever you want me to talk about on the podcast. This is what I fill in with my own advice. I didn't actually intend to go so deep into that aspect. I just, right before I recorded the podcast, I got off with someone on the phone who was just like, their day was exploding with shit and just fires to put out. And I'm like, and it wasn't just like, ugh, I don't want that. Like I wasn't disgusted. I was in awe of how they were able to just take that shit and roll with it day in, day out. They are fulfilled by their job, this particular person. But it still wears on them. You know what I mean? Like when you know somebody who like, hey man, you're always, you're tough and you soldier on. Like just because somebody's got the strength of character to soldier on doesn't mean it's easy. Okay. So just always keep that up. All the heroes in your life that are doing shit when, they work hard and everything like that. Just know that like it takes a good amount of strength, and it doesn't hurt every now and again for those people to hear that. You know what I mean? So to just take a minute and be like, hey, you work crazy hard and you're incredible. I don't know, just that little bit I would imagine would go a long way for some people. But what else have I got to talk about? I'll save this one for later, guys. I'll in case it's someone's first time listening to the podcast, I'll do some other stuff here. I want to ask you guys, I've got a can of bubbly, 0 calories, so it's allowed. I woke up like thirsty this morning. And then I've got my my cup of black coffee, because black coffee is allowed on intermittent fasting. I always do the hard slurp too, because as I've been told by onesies in the past, they think it's funny. They're like, it's funny that I can hear you slurping your coffee. It's funny that I can hear you yawn. I've had onesies tell me they count the amount of times I've yawned. I think it's funny, but this is one thing. Now I'm not a pig, in this regard. I don't like to be loud with my slurping and things like that. There's been times in the past. The reason I do it is to make it known that I'm doing it, because people have said that they think it. So if I just, stopped, had a little sip, you didn't hear anything. Also, this mic is very sensitive. So you can hear like, my teeth hitting the cup and just the breaks in my breathing. If I swallow, like it's pretty sensitive mic. But I just remember in the past, not sometimes, there was a time where someone was like, oh, one of the things I don't like about your podcast is that I can hear you like slurping your coffee and it's disgusting. And I was like, and I was thinking about this yesterday, so I wrote it down. I'm like, a subject of conversation for the podcast, considering this is the playground, the environment that it happened in. And I wanted to say, does anyone else think that slurping is disgusting? Like, I get it's like a mouth body consumption thing. Like, I think talking with your mouth full is kind of gross. And what's funny? There are people, and I think I'm one of them, who are able to, let's say, talk with their mouth full. And I don't mean like full, but just in general, you know what I mean? Like take a bite, that's not bad. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing where it's not gross. There's something in my mouth, but I spoke, side of my mouth, whatever. I don't find that gross. People talking about full, I think that like, it's like, okay, finish chewing. That's disgusting. Right. But even worse. All right. Even worse. One of our roommates here, just sits and disgusting. To me, that's just gross. I don't know. It's like people make fun of mouth breathers. It's like, well, yeah, are you a mouth breather? Like, can you not just chew with your mouth closed? I don't know. Some of these people too, like I've seen them do it the right way. So when they do it the wrong way, I feel like it's a choice. And I feel I honestly I feel personally disrespected, again, with the people who I know it's a choice, right? Because I know that you know how to chew with your mouth closed. Why do you not do it around me? You think I'm not worth it or whatever, right? Josh, you take everything personally. So yeah, sometimes I assume everything is a slight against myself because I don't value myself. But I also, as a comedian, I'm observant, and I observe that, hey, you know how to do it. Why the fuck do you always do it wrong around me? But we're talking about the bodily functions and not specific relationships, Joshua. So what I'm asking you guys is, I think slurping is in that vein of, and we're not talking like this is what I'm talking about. A little slurp of coffee. Okay. That was called quote unquote disgusting by one person. So, I ham it up, and I'll own the hamming it up part, but it's clean. Okay. I'm not like blowing. I'm not talking about like, slurping soup, where it's like food and shit like that. Like I get that. But even then, you know, and then there is a, let's call it a meal rather than targeting a people. There's a certain, like, have you ever seen people eat noodles, bowls of noodles or whatever, and just pulling it in with chopsticks, slurping? That I will give you is gross. I will give you that. And here's why. Because when you're slurping noodles and shit in soup, they're flinging all over the area while they're slurping in, and they're spraying shit around. I'll give you that. Because I wrote that down as even one of my talking points, is that I think burping is gross. I think farting is gross. I think sneezing and coughing are gross. But what those all have in common is that they're all like outwards, right? It's releasing shit outwardly, which is gross. A lot of them smell and a lot of them can get you sick. But to me, it's just like, I don't want your fucking particles on my shit. You know what I mean? But the thing with slurping is it's inward, right? You're sucking inwards. You're not really throwing shit. Like to me, I would say, like, let's use soup as an example, or even maybe a cup of coffee, but we'll go soup. Like if you pull a spoonful of soup up, I think it's grosser to blow on it than it is to slurp it into your mouth. Do you know what I mean? Because one of them is outwards, where you could be spraying shit somewhere else. Not like blowing on the soup, but you know what I mean, right? The idea is like, and that's what I wonder. I'm like, I get why sneezing and all that stuff. Yes, for the, you know, you could get me sick, or, oh, it's gross or icky, but just, yeah, you're spraying it, right? Like, are you afraid of being near somebody with a vacuum cleaner, right? They got the nozzle and they're cleaning the stairs. You go away from them. He's like, oh, get that disgusting sucking thing. It's like sucking it inwards. That's what slurping is. I'm pulling it in. I'm not going to get it on you. I'm pulling it inwards. It's more likely to get on you, just me holding it here in my hand, than it is when I'm slurping it inwards. So that's what I want to ask you guys. Is that gross? Is slurping gross? And if it is, what's gross about it? Contact at onemanpodcast.com. Send me the answers. I'd love to know what you think on that. Like I said, more people have said that they've found my slurping the coffee, as something a little charming and unique to the podcast. It's just something that can be expected. And like I said, there's lots of podcasts where I can go the whole thing without having a drink or whatever, or I have water or whatever. I try that whatever it is to give a little slurp. It's really just a nod to tradition on the podcast. So in case anyone has, you know, come in later and just been like, yeah, I always tell when he's having a drink. Just know that I'm very capable of taking something. I got the bubbly here. I can drink without slurping. It's tradition. Oh, fuck. Sorry. The bubbly gave me the gas. I was hoping to just burp right into the mic to completely contradict everything I just talked about. But it wouldn't come. And now that I've let you in on the thing, I don't like to burp like that, but that's another thing too. We got roommates who'll just come out of their room literally and almost every single time, like in the evening, come out of their room on their way on the 5 steps from their room to the bathroom, burp and then fart. No excuse me, no covering the mouth, anything like that. Just an example of disgusting. And, it always makes me just be like, I don't want to be that. You know, I'm the fattest guy in the house. I should be like the one that you point like, that's slovenly piece of, and I'm not. I'll hold it quite well. I comport myself quite well for a large man. You know what I mean? It'd be interesting if it was like a show. If it was a show about a bunch of animals, like they would have me as like a hippo or a rhino or something, or a pig. But it would just be this big thing, and you'd be like, oh, that's the slow, you know, Homer Simpson-esque thing. But I think it would be funny because they'd have me as a character where I'm like, you know, the clean one. The neat freak is the giant hippopotamus, which would be hilarious. You know, I'm trying to think of what's like the dirtiest animal you can think of? Just like the habits that are just completely disgusting. Like what's a hoarder animal? I can't think of an animal that's like a hoarder. Maybe I'll make that as a top 5 list at some point. Top 5 fat anthropomorphizing animals, you know, hippo, rhino, pig. I'm having a hard time coming up with anyone that's beyond that. What are some other big fucking manatees, cows? Oh, it's easy. That's an easy list. There you go. There's 5 right there. Impromptu top 5. So yeah, I just wanted to know what you guys thought. I'm not going to go down the road of the fucking animal show. That would be funny to me though, is if I took everybody in this house and just like turned them into an animal and then put it, because then we can just not, we're just having fun because animals and stuff are doing the craziest things as people. So I got the slurping thing out of the way, and I wanted to say this too, just in terms of coffee, because this came up and it popped into my head. So why not throw it onto the list? Is somebody asked me for a regular coffee. So this could be like 2 years ago. This came up recently. Back when I was living a life, I remember this happening. It might have been in the small interim of doing the Nespresso tour in November. So it could have been like, maybe less than 6 months ago. But anywho, somebody ordered a regular coffee, and I didn't know this until I was in my 30s, I think. But do you guys know what a regular coffee is? Like if you ask for a regular coffee, and I Googled it to see if it was universally the same. It seems to be different in Canada than in the States based on what Google says. But the person who was requesting it, when they said, "Oh, just give me a regular coffee," they understood regular coffee to mean a black coffee. And a lot of people have heard, "Hey, how do you like just a black coffee? Let me get a black coffee. Let me get a black coffee." You hear people call it a black coffee because if you want a black coffee, you have to ask for that by name, because a regular coffee, even though verbally, it kind of feels like you're just asking, just give me like a regular coffee. I don't need anything in it. That's not what a regular coffee is. In Canada, and predominantly Tim Hortons, which was like the biggest staple of coffee for the longest time. But for a place that makes it for you, puts the stuff in, like Starbucks, you got to go put your own shit in it. Right. I mean, they're not charging you 3 times as much to be doing some of the work that the other places are doing, are they? But, yeah, you ask for a regular coffee, it's like 1 cream, 1 sugar. So that's a regular coffee. And I just was wondering if anyone, I asked somebody this morning, I was like, I was thinking of it. I was like, hey, do you know what a regular coffee is? And they were like, they took a stab at it. They didn't say black, which is good. And I was like, okay, fair. I got there's no wrong answer per se. It wasn't a setup to like, haha, you don't know, because I guess a lot of people don't. But yeah, if you're going through a drive-through, in the States, they said in New York, it typically means 1 cream, 2 sugar. So it's either like, like I said, here in Canada, a regular is like 1 cream, 1 sugar. We have the, famous double saying. I don't know if they call it that in the States. I really don't think they do. But double means, 2 and 2. Let me get a 3 and 3, triple, 3 and 3. I don't know people to do like 4 and 4. And I'm like, you're basically just drinking sugar milk with a little bit of a coffee taste to it. But anywho, regular coffee. Now if you didn't know, if you go through a coffee place and you say, just give me a regular coffee, know that you are not getting a black coffee. If you have anybody who ever asks you, says, I'll just take a regular coffee, just double check with them. So you mean 1 cream, 1 sugar, or you mean black coffee? Because black coffee, I guess that's the lesson here that I'm trying to share with you, is that a black coffee and a regular coffee are 2 very different things, and make sure you know which one it is that you're asking for. I visited with my buddy, Aaron Power. He was here doing his taxes with Jay because the rule is stay home and don't have guests over. So naturally, Jason's not listening. Right. And at the same time, furious that they keep closing things down. But why? What does cause and effect mean? Having said that, Aaron was in the house and then he just sort of wandered over. He was my old colleague with doing Open Mic Mondays at Absolute Comedy. And he just sort of came over to say hello. To my room, and I was like, hey, whatever, we're chatting for a couple minutes, and a couple minutes turned into, 15, 20 minutes, 20 minutes turned into like an hour and a half. And, it was nice chatting with him. We talked about all sorts of different stuff, kept our distance, was mindful of the distance, but, just wasn't a lot of touching of stuff and whatnot. I was just like, okay, but chatted with him. And he was having some drinks. I guess he brought over some beers to have while he was doing his taxes, and he finished the liquor. So he's having his drinks and, getting progressively more inebriated, which went from just like regular shooting the shit to the beginning of the inebriation being like getting into some deeper stuff. Like we were just talking about, neither one of us had father figures growing up. So we just kind of got into conversation about that. And then the alcohol really started to basically overtake his demeanor. And to the point where like, I think we got into an argument about something small, and I remember exactly what it was, and I'm not even going to talk about it because it doesn't make any sense. Right. When you have a sober person, a drunk person are like argue, it's like, it's impossible to just even cut through. But, Aaron was actually at one point, Aaron was complimenting me on my ability to do voices, and was saying that I should like factor them into my act. Like I should try to write more impressions into my act and stuff. And I got talking about how I don't really like impressions. And if you guys want, like, I can actually go into it. I actually find impressions. Fuck. Am I going into it? We're already at the hour mark and I have a shitload of stuff to talk to you guys about. I'm going to fucking skip belief. I'm not done. But I will review it next week. I'll finish it and then I'll review it. That'll make me feel like less half-assed in terms of doing the review, and I can tell you guys something different. And I'll do what I always do, which is probably misrepresent what I actually mean. But let's fucking give her. Okay, so I feel like I'm good at doing voices and impressions. He was just saying too, he's like, you're naturally good at it. Which was nice. I appreciate the compliment. I accept it. And he was like, well, but just like, why don't you do it more? He's like, I wish, like, there's so many guys like wish they could do it. And, he's like, it's a skill that you have that you're very talented at and you just won't do it. And I was telling him that, like, I don't want to just do impressions for the sake of doing impressions. No, don't do them. Not just for the sake of doing them, but like try to like write them into your act. I'm like, well, isn't that deliberately trying to like shoehorn them in there? And we talked about some comedians we know that just like do an impression in their act and they're not even writing anything. You know what I mean? Like they're not, sorry, I'm trying to make sure that I phrase this in such a way that the people in the community who may listen to this don't immediately know who I'm talking about, because I like all of them. I just don't like this aspect. But they're not even doing jokes. They're literally just doing the impression, like saying a line from that character and singing. I'm like, well, you're not creating anything in there. You're just going, look what I can do. It's like a trick. I'm not saying it's not a talent or anything like that, but like, I don't like my act is I'm like trying to create something and I want it to be funny. To me, doing an impression, I'm going to pick something randomly. Like, let's say just doing an impression of Gollum to me, and just saying something that Gollum says, it's not funny. Maybe it was funny in that movie, but that comics, like the cardinal sin is stealing material. And I'm not saying that doing an impression per se is stealing material, but if you're doing the voice of the character and you're just saying something that the character said in the movie, like, Aaron was like, well, it's a reference. I'm like, well, it's not a reference. Like if I tell another guy's joke, am I just referencing it? They basically, they'll structure a weak joke, like a weak setup, so that the punchline can be something that was just a line from a movie in that character's voice. I don't do anything in my act that I don't think is funny. Like I'm not going to pander. And to me, just doing a voice for the sake of doing it, like, oh, doesn't that sound like the character? And people are clapping. It's like, oh, that was a really good impression. I'm like, I don't like it. I'll do, like, to me, when I'm doing this podcast with you guys, because I was telling him, I'm like, I do voice in the podcast. He's like, oh, so you think it's funny there? And I'm like, I'm not doing, like, okay, now I'm going to do Christopher Walken. Yeah, he hit this thing in his ass. Like, and that was really half-assed. Now, Butch, I give the watch to you. I see people doing, I watched something the other day. I think it was the Blockbuster one. There was a fucking guy, on that documentary, The Last Blockbuster, who just kept doing impressions. Every time they were asking him something, he would just do an impression from a movie or something. It was so fucking obnoxious. He wasn't really bad, but it's just like there's something about watching someone do like hacky impressions that I just don't find funny. Like we all get the line from the movie. We get it. And you're just like, they're clearly asking the question. He just keeps doing the fucking, doing all these famous people I don't know. I don't like it. I do voices on the podcast, but I'm doing like a character. It's not even a real person. And it's something that I feel like they would say. But I'm not doing it because I'm like, oh, I'm going to write this into the podcast. Do accent of dumb chick or stupid guy here. It's, it adds emphasis to what I'm saying, but it's not like, oh, let me take that line from the movie. I'll do a Back to the Future reference, line here. I don't know. I don't like impressions, and I don't like accents just for the sake of accents either. You know what I mean? I think what Russell Peters is doing is fucking pathetic. And the thing too is, and I've said this on the podcast before, is that I saw Russell Peters, like everyone around the world knows him now, but Russ is a Canadian comic. I saw his Comedy Now, which was like the Canadian version of Comedy Central Presents. And Russ did a great act, had his classic, somebody gonna get hurt real bad joke about his dad in there. And see, like, I didn't do that impression to be insulting or anything like that. It's just, that's what he says. Right? It is a perfect reference to what he's saying in terms of like, if it was like, oh, his joke about somebody going to get hurt real bad. Well, that's not it's not exactly what Russ says. Anyways, he does all the accents on that special. So he does that joke. He does some other jokes, but the vast majority of that special is him doing Asian accents and Jamaican accents and Indian accents. And it's just accents. The jokes are funny. He's like, Asian people will go into a store and, hey, can I help you with something? And, oh, no, just looking. I don't have an issue with that. You know what I mean? Like, people talk like that. But I do take issue in the equality of how come when one person does an accent, it's racist, and the other person does it, and it's $1 million entertainment, future or whatever. Racist is racist is racist. First off, I'll take this opportunity. What fucking rabbit hole am I walking down verbally right now? The racist is to infer or suggest that one race is better than another. If you're quoting somebody, like I told you guys that story about the Asian woman who wouldn't let me buy more than one cheeseburger at McDonald's, like the employee at McDonald's, because she's like, you have too many pimpo. You have too many pimpo. Now, someone would go, oh, doing that accent's racist. Why? What part of that is me suggesting that her race is any better or worse than another? Do you know what I mean? Like, if I was to say, oh my God, all Asian people sound so stupid, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, now there's an inference of better or worse or whatever. But to quote someone, like, that's the thing. If I'm telling a story about, like, chatting with a guy here or whatever, and he had an accent, like, I'm trying to, if I'm telling you a story, I'm trying to represent it as accurately as possible. So to deliberately like pull back on it because I'm like, oh, I'm worried about what you think. It even changed, to me, honestly, like it changes the context of the story to me. It can, and the thing too is like with accents and stuff, it's like, here's the thing. Why is it funny to laugh at something that a kid says, but it's not funny, but it's racist to laugh at like a mistake in the language from somebody who's from somewhere else. Do you know what I mean? Like there's all sorts of comics that'll do jokes about how French sounds in English. Well, that's not a race. It's a culture or whatever, a language, I guess, background. I don't know. But it's just funny. Like you can tell a joke about what a dumb thing a kid said or laugh at something funny a kid said, right? You're not like ageist because of it. I don't know. I think people are really looking for way too many reasons to get mad about bullshit. It's kind of a little nonsensical, but again, if Russell Peters can literally make fun of the way people talk for a living, and it's fine. People want to pay millions of dollars for it, and it's not that old stupid rule where it's like, well, he's Indian, so he can make fun of the Indian accent, and you're black, so you can make fun of like the black. It's like, no, he does them all, and it's like, well, he's the minority, so it's like the people who are trying to make the rules are such ass backwards fucks. It doesn't make any sense. So going back to like, why don't I just put, impressions or accents or things like that into my act is like, for starters, I don't find an impression funny. Okay, here's a Aaron and I were joking about, here's like, if so-and-so and so-and-so had a baby, it might go a little something like this. And he does the turnaround and he's going to like fucking, yeah, like we were saying, like, he's like, not like, I'm not trying to say like that, but I was just like, look, for me to do something, if I feel like it's going to make a joke funnier, if it comes organically, sure. But you're never going to see me be like, hey, so-and-so, like if I do a reference to something, like when I'm doing the, hey, what do you got here, buddy? Like, if I'm going to do an accent or something like that, or a character, sure, I'll do characters, but I'm not going to like do an actual movie character and just, hey, let's just talk like that person because aren't I funny? Like, I don't know. I've never found an opportunity where I'm like, I'm just going to shoehorn in an actor because I can. I'm good at voices, so it's just that. There's acts, like their whole fucking act is doing impressions, and doesn't it get fucking old? You know what I mean? Like, have you guys not seen these guys? Frank Caliendo, look him up. He was on Mad TV. He is talented, but I just like, there's even like his, I heard his special on the radio, like the AOL radio years ago, and the last bit of his fucking set, like his closer, he's doing impressions the entire time, is he's like running through the game, and it's like supposed to be like almost like a ventriloquist, like back and forth, like the dummy him, and changing your voice and everything like that. And he's just like, Frank Caliendo's not a ventriloquist, but I'm just saying that like he's trying to, I guess, do this thing where like, look how fast he can change voices and impressions. And it's just a mess in the end. It's like he's changing quickly, but it's also like he's saying like one word at a time. So it's almost hard to even get it wrong when you're switching so fast, talking so fast. It's just gross. I don't know. And I'm not saying it's not a talent. It's just fucking gross. So, or maybe I just can't take a compliment. Like I said, Aaron was trying to say like, hey man, you're just naturally talented at that kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, well, if I'm talking and I think, it has like a vibe of like a Russian sort of intimidation, then maybe I do Russian voice, You talk about Russian. I'll give you a good example of a joke where I guess someone's doing an impersonation, but it's not a bit, it just popped in my head, the Russian accent, is Dan Soder. Dan Soder has this great bit about how like when he goes to other towns, he's never sure about like the neighborhoods and areas and stuff like that. So like whenever like, he's always ready in case like he gets approached in a bad neighborhood or whatever. Someone comes up to him and he's like, yo man, what you doing in this neighborhood? It's not safe for you. He's like, I'll just fake a Russian accent and be like, you think this is bad neighborhood? Like it's a good job. I can't remember what he says or whatever, but it's a very short thing, but it's basically just about how terrifying that is as a concept. Just like, cause Russian people get into some fucking KGB shit or whatever. And so just the idea that like, if you're intimidated, just put on a Russian accent. Someone's like, hey, what you doing out here all by yourself? It's not safe. And like, you think this bad neighborhood? That would be the kind of, usage I would have for accents or impersonations, would be not a character that's already established, but if I think that that's going to create, if it's going to work. And I kept telling him, I have them in my act already. I would point them out and he's like, yeah, but like, I really think that he just wanted me to do impressions. A lot of people sometimes too, like just think you can do it. I have lots of friends who'll be like, yeah, I was driving down the street the other day and I saw this thing and I was like, you could make like a joke out of that. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? What was funny about it? They're like, I don't know. I just thought it was weird, but like, I felt like there was a joke there, but like you could make a joke out of it. I'm like, well, why do I have to do the work? If you can't even express to me why you thought it was funny, let alone do the work of making it relatable and crafting a joke. It would be like going up to a carpenter, right? Or maybe like a carver, whittler, sculptor, whatever. And just being like, hey, I found this rock. Like you can make like a sculpture out of it. Well, thanks. Like you're just giving me a job to do. Like, you don't have like an outline. You don't have a sketch of what you think it could look like. It's just like, like I saw this rock and I was like, oh, it's probably a cool rock. Like I bet you could make something out of it. You should make something out of it. So I take to politely saying to people like, oh, thank you very much. But like without any suggestion, if you can't even tell me what you found funny about it in like long form, I'll give you another example. Wow, am I ever talking today? You know what? I'm just killing time before I can fucking eat. That's 11:36. I was hoping if I got up at 5, I could have this thing out to you guys for 7 a.m. so that you could have this for your morning. This will be out early afternoon. I apologize. I'll give you an example of like the work of a comic, right? Like I've had a joke that I've wanted to write for years just because I thought it was funny. As I get older, I lose faith in the medical industry and stuff like that. And I just remember there was a period of time where I was like sick. I was sick chronically, and I'd gone to the walk-in clinic 3 times over the course of like 2 months because they would give me antibiotics, and then I wouldn't get any. Like I would get better, but not over it. I would just improve, and I just had this cough, and I couldn't get rid of it. And I even ended up calling, believe it or not, my doctor out of retirement. I was like going through the phone book, and it was like, Alexis. And I was like, would that happen? I called him like, would this happen to be, blank Alexis, whatever? Yes. I'm like, I'm so sorry to bother you, but I'm a former, client and blah, blah, blah. And he actually, so get this, like, I told him what I was going through, and he made the suggestion, to just get a humidifier, and, that made all the difference. I actually started to get better after. Whereas the guys who are currently, this guy was retired, whereas these assholes were currently practicing medicine, different ones, not one of them thought like, hey, so how is the rest of your breathing environment? God, I hate everything in life these days sometimes. It's like the people who are supposed to fucking know don't know shit. And that leads me back to the whole, vaccine and this and that. There's the half that are like, it's absolutely terrible. And then there's the half that's like, you got to believe everything. Everybody's your buddy. They all want to help. Like, get the fuck out of here. So I remember thinking to myself, because again, I'm a comic, I don't have any medical coverage. Like every prescription, everything comes right out of pocket for me. So I just remember thinking like, I kept going to the doctor, and I'm sitting there and I'm paying a shitload of money and nothing's happening. And I'm like, at this point, I'm like, I would be interested in going like with some sort of like holistic way. I'm like, at least, like maybe I let's go to the woods and I'll talk to some witch doctor that'll dance around a fire and then, slit a goat's throat and see if that works any better for healing me. Cause I'm like, I'm getting about the same results from the medical community. And in my head, I'm just thinking like, okay, well, hey, it can't be cheap. That can't be cheap. You have to go and buy a goat. I'm sure a goat's not cheap. How much does a goat cost? Or a chicken or whatever it is, plus, the makeup and this and that, like, for the mat, like it's gotta be expensive, I'm like, it probably costs like, I remember in my head just thinking like, it's gotta cost like $80 or something like that. That would be expensive to go into the woods and create a sacrifice. And then in my head, I'm like, you know what? I remember paying like $80 for my prescription that did fuck all for me. And it was boring. We just sat there on the fucking, as Seinfeld calls it, the butcher paper, sitting around waiting. Like at least with voodoo and witchcraft, at least you get a fucking show out of the deal. You know what I mean? Dance around a fire. It's like some weird Cirque du Soleil show, but they dance around the fire, slit a throat. Like it's an experience. I guarantee more memorable than just sitting around in a fucking waiting room reading. Who picks those magazines? Do you know what I mean? The dumbest. Anyways, all I'm saying is that to me, I wanted to write that joke because I thought it was funny. The idea that like people scoff at like spiritual medication and shit like that. And I'm like, yeah, but when I know so many people that for a multitude of different reasons and ailments have like been chronically going back to the doctors, trying to find out what it is and solutions and spending money and getting nowhere. And I'm like, well, if you're gonna waste your money and get nowhere, like I said, with spiritual witch doctor, whatever the fuck it is, at least they put on a fucking show. You know what I mean? So that's an example of here's what I find funny about it. Now that's not the whole, the joke has never been performed live. The joke has never been really flushed out, right? Because that's too long. There's no real big laugh points at it. I think the biggest laugh in that whole concept is the whole, hey, at least, if you're going to charge me $100, put on a fucking show. You know what I mean? But if someone came to me and was like, hey, I thought of this thing, like, hey, you should like make a joke out of it. Like, I don't know. I don't know if like that's part of them, like hoping that I make a joke. And then someday they're like, hey, I gave him that joke. It's like, no, you said, hey, I saw two people like both like walk over this piece of garbage on the ground and I thought it was like funny. So like, you should make a joke out of it. Like, what? What was funny about it? I just thought you could make that funny. Well, I can make things funny. I have no interest in it. I have no interest in just your concept. I'm taking requests. All right, somebody, I'm not an improv guy. Someone give me a job. Someone give me a weird location. Give me a name of a family member. You know what I mean? Like I'm not looking for more. I have tons of notes of shit that I actually think is funny that I got to distill down into a joke. But I'm not ungrateful for the kind, I guess, the good intention. I'm grateful for I don't know. It just feels like someone's handing me work. Like I said, if you could explain to me what you found funny, I don't care if it's long form. At least I know kind of where your head was at, and then maybe I can work with it. Because we've even it's funny because two people might find a situation funny, but for different reasons. Like I've had comics where we do writing groups where someone will present an idea. Like they'll present the premise and then people immediately start workshopping and spitballing it. And I've had to be like, guys, stop, hold on a second. Like, and you can see that person is like visibly like they talk, oh no, I thought it was funny because of like blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, so I've learned to like, before we even start workshopping something with comics is go, tell me like, what do you think? Like, what's funny about that to you? So that like, if we're going to workshop it with you, like, let's not go off in a different direction. Let's like, what do you find funny about that? So we can work with your thing. So that's where like, you know, I if someone was going to do that for me, I'd just say like, what do you find funny about that? Explain it to me, because just saying like, I saw this thing, you could make a joke. I'm like, yeah, maybe I could if I tried real hard, but right now I don't even understand what you perceived from it. So as much as you're like, hey, you should do impressions, or hey, you should just, hey, I saw this thing, you can make it funny. Listen, quit your day job. If you need to, I feel kind of cunty saying this, but, if subconsciously your thing is like, oh, I gave him the idea, now you can live vicariously through me. Like I'll write a joke and you can be like, that was my idea. You got to find something else to fulfill yourself. I can't do that. Or if you're just a nice person and you thought it was funny and you think you're helping me, great. Tell me what was funny about it, because I got to tell you guys, 99% of the time someone's like, oh, I saw this thing and I thought it was funny. You should make a joke. They're giving me nothing. You know what I mean? It's as useful as when someone comes up to me after a show, like, oh, this guy right here. And they're pointing at their buddy, man, you should joke. You should tell jokes about him. You should talk about this guy, man. He's a character. Great. I have no idea who he is. And let me tell you something. Nobody that I talk to in front of, you know, when I'm on stage knows who he is. This is like the over, and this is from being hit with it 1,000 times. It's like, I'm sure your friend makes you laugh, but you know him. I don't know him. Audiences don't know him. Oh my God. You guys know Steve? Steve is, man, he's this guy. Like Steve comes into work and he's got like his shirt on fucking backwards. It's fucking hilarious. Is it? Maybe it's hilarious when you live in what I described earlier, the dead government cubicle thing. Some person comes up, you're not supposed to do that. He's wearing jeans and it's Thursday. It's not Friday yet. You don't get to pick your pants on Thursday. You wear the mandated ones. I don't know if that's funny to you, but it's not. No, I'm bitching. Sorry, guys. I don't like when I'm bitching. Don't like when I'm bitching. All right, let's shift gears. I don't know where the fuck all of that came from. Oh, that was Aaron complimenting me. But I was trying to say that we got into a stupid argument midway through. No point in even trying to explain it. All I know is that he stormed off upset, and I went outside and I was like, dude, come back. Let's resolve it. And I was actually impressed. We ended up being outside talking for like 2 hours, but I took like the drunk, like anger, frustration, talking over you, like he's not going to listen, to like being patient, you know, being productive with everything that I was saying, like not triggering defenses, not triggering aggression, not making him feel attacked. And somebody who I worked with for years, who I could never successfully do that with, you know, all the things I've learned about communication and psychology and defensiveness and all those different things, I was able to employ them. I was able to employ them and actually get great results from it. to the point where, you know, it wasn't COVID safe, but he gave me a hug afterwards and said he was sorry and everything like that. So, which I've never been able to do with this person. This person will get drunk and they don't give a fuck what they're saying or whatever. They will be aggressive and all sorts of stuff. So, wasn't the case this time, and it worked out great. So I was happy about that. I was grateful for the compliment. I was grateful. It was something that really stood out to me because it was nice to actually be able to resolve an argument productively and whatnot with a friend, using a lot of the stuff that I'd learned. How about that? Good news, guys. Only 973 more topics to talk about this week. I'm just feeling good. I am feeling good, as much as me bitching about that. I like talk. It would be a lot easier to, I'm talking with people. Some people are like, interested in doing, you know, an episode with me. Everyone's like, it's always better when I have two people. And I agree. It's just so it's not an expectation. It's hard to, you know, it's hard to book people. All right. People bail and shit all the time. But I am enjoying having co-hosts, and I also let people will shit on me where it's like, oh yeah, the one man podcast where there's guests. You know what? Fuck you. I'm still the one man. I'm the one man that's there all the time. That's the whole idea. So basically, oh, that would be great. Sorry, I just had an idea for something. But the podcast there, the beautiful podcast. What was it here? Feeling good. Got some friends want to be on the podcast. I like sharing my people with you guys, the people that I get to meet and whatnot. Like I said, I had a good chat with my friend Nell. She's great and funny. You know what I mean? Vanessa, I should say. She's hilarious. I have so many people in my life that are so great. Like, I love cracking them up. You know what I mean? You know what? I got to be honest with you guys. It's actually the people that I know that have the most stressful lives. When I can make them laugh, like, I got to tell you, it makes me feel so good. Do you know what I mean? That I can just that I can give them that little escape. Like I said, I can't be the office guy. I can't do it, but I can be the guy that makes you, the office guy, laugh. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like, I can give you an escape. I really am I'm going to try to lean into this, stop being down on myself for not being the office guy. And start really embracing the fact that you're the medicine to an extent for the office guy or girl or non-binary, non-identifying, yada, yada, yada. Just to be safe, I'd still like to be here next week. All right. I think we're getting down to the nitty gritty here. You guys want to hear something stupid? This is, whoa, wow. Wow. Did that ever make a lot of noise? I apologize. I whacked the fucking, clipboard there to the back of the mic. I'm sorry about that, guys. Didn't mean to. You guys ever hear the term, are you a grower or a shower? I remember Googling this morning what a micro penis is. Because I've heard the term, it's obviously, oh, this guy over here has got a micro penis, like it's an insult. And I looked it up because I was like, oh, well, what's a micro penis? And it's apparently super small penesia. Like a little feller when he's born, feller, as he would undoubtedly identify as, previous to 10 years ago, just a young feller with a penis. Apparently they got little, absolutely tiny, winky little dongs. And it's it can be diagnosed early. Like the guy's got a little micro penis and they can treat it with testosterone and stuff like that to make it bigger, not even average size, but just bigger. Right. Anyways, I was reading it because I'm not going to tell you the whole story, but basically I'm a dude, okay, who has a small flaccid penis, okay? So flaccid. So if you're, it's fucking pathetic. Probably made worse by the fact that I'm overweight. So there's just extra stuff down there. It's just, if it was just right against the pubic bone, I'm sure there'd be more to see. But the way that I'm at now is it basically looks like I have an Audi. I'm this is where I say I will embarrass myself before I get the office job. All right. So here's where this is what you've been waiting for. If you've stuck it out right now, here's hopefully the couple of fucking laughs at my expense coming. But I am like, basically like, it looks like I have like an outie belly button. Like that's how small it is. It like retracts in me like a turtle hiding. So it's like, it just looks like this. Looks like I have an outie belly button above a set of balls. You know what I mean? It's pathetic. And I was like really I mean, when I was younger, it's not like I was running around and flashing my cock at people. But I remember, I remember like one time we were in the shower in, I think it was in high school or, you know, the gym or something like that. And my buddy Mika, one of my good friends for years, it wasn't just like me and him, cause that would have been weird, but it was just like, it was like a bunch of us. And Mika's like, oh my God, dude, you got like some serious baby dick going on over there. And I'm like, huh. And the thing is, I think that the only reason that I can say this is because I actually wasn't until I was in my 30s that I'd heard the term growers or showers. So someone's like, and I was like, what the fuck is that? It's like, well, some people are like showers. So it's like what you see is what you get. And then there's some people that are growers, like where you know, it fills in and then, you know, and I think that person was even like, you know, I'm having a hard time remembering who the person was. But I remember them saying that like often growers can actually be bigger than the showers. And I was like, whatever. All I know is that the very limited amount of people that I've been with were all like, I don't know what you call the OK symbol with your fingers. You know what I mean? The index and thumb touching and you, hey, okay. Hey, that's kind of the, you know, hey, everything's, no complaints. But I remember being embarrassed. I remember the girl who took my virginity. She took it. She didn't even ask. I've talked about that. I just remember like at first I was like, oh my God, like get her. Like cause I did not expect her to even touch me down there. I just thought we were making out. And it was, she just like reached down and like started grabbing it. I was like, oh, and I was like, I was getting hard. I was like, oh fuck, come on, get hard. And she's like, shut up. And I'm like, what? She's like, it's big. Shut up. And I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, but I thought about that. I was like, and even today I was Googling it this morning. I'm like, is a micro penis like a super small flaccid penis? And it's not. So I don't have a, like, you'd never think someone would be disappointed to not have a micro penis. But I was just like, yeah, it would explain a lot. You know what I mean? Could I check that off on a job application as having a disability? Isn't that in the movie? Isn't that in the fucking movie? Small dicks like a disability. Yeah, it was in the first Scary Movie. It's a little picture. It says, I know, but it's a picture of his small little cock. By the way, oh, and that's where the term baby dick came from that Mika got, because it would have been after Scary Movie. So we'd know if we were in high school. It's serious baby dick, man. And that's exactly what happens. It's like, you know, like, I know. Ray's like, I got one too. He's like, Ray's got a baby dick too? It's like, no, I got a picture. But he runs around holding the Polaroid. Hey man, this is not fucking cool. Small dick's like a disability, man. Fuck. Anyways, so it turns out I don't have, and apparently I was just reading everything I read about like micro penises is like if you catch it early, like an infant, they can rub topical like testosterone on it or inject testosterone, and it'll help stimulate the growth of the little failer's wang, but it still will not ever be like, it'll never be an average size penis. It'll be like a below average, but at least it won't be a tiny little schmeckle. Right? So yeah. How about that? That's something you know about me. Isn't that gross, ladies? I just, I do have to say that, when I was with Crystal, she never made me feel bad about that. And it was like, here's the thing. I know body language. So, you know, when someone's being nice and when someone's trying to be supportive and whatever, never got that, but it's still like, as a guy, like it's embarrassing, you know, because you're just like, well, what if I ever met somebody new or just anything like that? Or even, and honestly, even if just you care about your partner, is that a weird thing? Maybe maybe I'm wrong to say that. It's not like if you care about your partner, but like you know, your own self-image is so pivotal and important in the bedroom. You know what I mean? Like I know that there was times in my past, with Crystal where I couldn't come or anything like that. And I know at the time it like kind of made her feel like it was my attraction level to her. And it was like, no, it's all in my head. Like, yeah, like let's put it this way. Like, and yeah, I think I've talked about it in the past where just generally speaking, like there can be pressures in the bedroom with couples and, like sometimes your partner feels like they're the reason that you can't finish and you're stuck in your own head. And it's like, well, I can't finish because I'm like, ugh. And then like I don't think that she would mind me sharing this. I try not to like talk about stuff that's intimate or whatever, but like there'd be times like the idea of her going down on me is like, I have a hard time. Like it feels good, but I have a hard time just like relaxing and enjoying it because I'm always like criticizing and being insecure of myself. Like, oh my God, what must that look like? Like do it. And I'm just like, this has got to be horrible for her. And which is like so insecure, but it's like when you're in your head like that, you can't come. And then the next time it's like, oh, sorry, it's me. Like I'm too stuck in my head. So then now it's like, you're still having the same thoughts and the added pressure of like, well, if I don't come, I'm going to make her feel bad and stuff. And it's not your partner's fault, but it's just like, you gotta feel good about yourself. It's often like, that's the thing too. We have all got our insecurities and I'm sure even, partner stuff or whatever, but it's fucked. And that's why you got to talk about it. That's why you got to start a podcast and talk about your micro penis, which isn't even a micro penis. Apparently, the level of like grower. So grower, right? Shower is what you see, what you get. You know what I mean? It basically just passes out and hangs straight down and stays the same length. So when it's hard or soft, it's the same thing. And then you get your growers where you never know what you're going to get. It's like the old Forrest Gump penis, right? The box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get until you put it in your mouth. So, I thought, I don't know. I maybe that's more just embarrassing now than funny. I thought it was fucking hilarious where I'm literally like, maybe that's what happens when I get up too early in the morning. I start Googling, do I have a micro penis? I'll tell you where that stemmed from is, I was watching, I've been watching a lot of romantic comedies lately. All right. Turning myself into a big softie. And, I watched the movie Enough Said. And it's starring James Gandolfini. It was the last thing he did, I believe, before he died. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus. And I liked that romantic. It wasn't even I don't even think it was a comedy. I don't think it was a romantic comedy. I think it was just kind of a little romance movie, little love story or whatever. But I would think that the most accurate place, like it wasn't a drama. So I think that the most accurate place you could put it was romantic comedy. But, I liked it because they were older. They're people who'd both been divorced and like dating. So it had a sweeter sort of as good as it gets vibe to it. Like As Good as It Gets was definitely a romantic comedy and incredibly sweet and incredibly like, oh, what a great fucking movie. But, Enough Said, which we watched, which I watched on Stars, it reminded me, that's on Disney, by the way. So I saw it on that. It was a sweet movie because you're looking at people who are a little older, like the priorities are different. It's not like they're going out clubbing and stuff like that. Like it was really cool. I definitely related more to like that level of dating and stuff like that. But it really reminded me of my relationship with Crystal. In fact, funny enough, like Julia Louis-Dreyfus, like her mannerisms and her mousiness and stuff at times were like my previous relationship. But there's a scene where she goes over to his house, like they have a nice date. And then like, he's like, yeah, you want to come over for brunch or whatever? And he like cooks for her. And he's just in a t-shirt and jogging pants or whatever, or pajama pants or whatever. And she's like, oh, or did you forget what day? And he's like, no, it was like, it's casual, we're just having brunch, it was kind of cool to see like his level of security and confidence in himself. But there's literally a part, where, they're saying, they're talking and she's like, blah, blah, blah. I can see your penis. He's like, what? She's like, I can see your penis. It looks like, oh my God, like it's like hanging out of at the hole in the thing or whatever. And he's like, oh God. And he goes over into his room, puts some pants on, but he leans out the door and he's like, how'd it look? Or how was it? you know, and she's like, you look healthy. You know what I mean? And they both laugh. And it just reminded me, there was actually a time when we were young, where we went swimming at a place in Ottawa called like Black Bridge. So there's a bridge that spans the Ottawa River, and myself, Crystal, and a couple of our friends went swimming there. We were jumping off the bridge into the water and then like walking out of the water to climb back up the bridge. And I remember just like, I jump off, I come up out of the water, and I start walking up towards where Crystal is standing at the bike path to get up to the bridge. And she's, as soon as I'm like walking out, I'm looking at her and she's just standing there like dying laughing. And I'm like, I'm like, what? And she's still just laughing. I go, what is so fucking funny? And she just points down at my crotch. I look down and I honestly don't know what was hanging out of my pants. I don't know if it was a testicle or my dick, whatever. I mean, it was a lot thinner in those days. So it was probably my penis, but I just remember thinking of that now. And I'm like, yeah. And that's what got me on the whole, no one would look at mine flaccid and be like, it looks healthy. I was like, mine looks like one of those, you know, alopecia rats that has like, you know, it's just like, I just look like a bald scrotum, you know, wrinkle sack. Okay. If you're still listening, I'm going to move on. The podcast is definitely going to be a 2-hour one. But I'm just going to move on to it. I watched a movie this weekend called Hell House. And this will be my segue into the top 5 and then to release you on to your day. Time is now 12:22. I've paused you guys a couple times to answer some text messages and whatnot throughout. Take a little breather. I watched a movie called Hell House. It was recommended to me, and it was like, hey, it's like this independent movie, but it's like kind of creepy. And it was creepy. But it was like low budget. Apparently there's 2 sequels. So there's like a 2 and 3. I don't know how inclined I'd be to watch them, but you never know. The story is about like this group of people. It starts off, I would say that, they shot themselves in the foot, by starting off with like this found footage that was on YouTube, because like they could have just said, hey, an incident happened and then here's the found footage of what it was, a group of people, blah, blah, blah. But instead they showed too much at the beginning, in my opinion, because it really left for things not being overly spooky in the end. However, Hell House is a movie about a group of people, maybe 4 or 5 of them. I don't remember exactly, but like a group of friends who have like a scary haunted house business. They go into like everywhere they host it in a different place. So like they go into a town and rent a venue and completely like this is the premise. They completely revamp the venue and they, they revamp the venue. They put, you know, deck it out so that it's super scary and then call it Hell House, and people pay money. They line up and they pay money and they go in and they experience the scariness of the Hell House. So the concept was interesting now and necessary for, you know, like, oh, they buy this haunted, you know, restaurant or whatever the fuck it was. I don't think it was a restaurant, but it kind of was. Like, I think it was a hotel. And they're going to do it all up, and there's a basement and a bar area and all this stuff. And again, seemingly very low budget. But once it starts kind of going, the whole like the budget isn't enough to be like, oh, we're this like crazy big haunted house company. Like, imagine like if you thought like some giant special effects company would buy a house and then redo it, like what you would expect to see. And what this ended up being was like a bunch of different, like, it was just like every room had different mannequins in it, and they would take mannequins and put like a scary, like a Halloween store mask on it. And like, that was supposed to be scary. The movie was creepy because what they were doing was like it was like one of those found footage ones, right? So it wasn't like, you know, production value where it's like, you know, stable cameras and they're filming it like it's not like a regular scene. It's like, oh, we're doing it like we found this footage and we were documenting it the whole time. But the issue was like, so a lot of the freaky stuff came from like, there were jump scares because like, you know, they put a mannequin down and the mannequin, they were even saying things like, oh no, these mannequins, their heads don't move. Like they were saying it in advance. So you're like, well, yeah, I know why you said that. That's foreshadowing. Their heads don't move. So later when you see a mannequin and its head's moved, it's like, oh, their heads don't do that. You know what I mean? So that, like, you could kind of see some of the formulaic horror movie stuff coming. It was still creepy. They did it I would say that they did very well with clearly the budget that they had. Lots of stuff like, there seemed to be a lot of different entryways and stuff around. So it wasn't like where, you have like one way out and one way up the stairs to the basement. It seemed like there was different staircases and different hallways that would all lead kind of around in circular ways. So you could you could have something behind you and then run around and then it's in front of you again or something. Like it's a little difficult to describe, but basically they would, there's the mannequin standing there. Hey, did you put that there? Whatever. Then they, hear a noise somewhere else, turn around the other way, look, and then they look back and the mannequin's a little closer or its head is turned or something like that. Like it's not a lot, but it was enough to be creepy. You know what I mean? Come back and it's right closer. You turn a corner and boom, it's standing right there. They never moved. You know what I mean? They never moved, in terms of like came to life or anything like that. At least not anything that I noticed. It was a bit dark at times, like where, you would see like that. And that's where you really got to be like hats off to some of these, larger production companies doing these found footage movies, because choosing where to have the camera angled that makes sense. Like if two people were talking in that moment, they wouldn't, there's sometimes where you're watching a found footage one and you're like, the guy's still got the camera right in the guy's face and he's freaking out and he's not even acknowledging, dude, put the fucking camera down. There's lots of them where they do, where they're like having an argument or whatever, and you see like the camera's down or whatever. And they'll even take that opportunity to maybe even show you like something's going on in the background that they're not paying attention to because they're arguing, whatever. So it allows the characters to get frustrated with each other and freak out and stuff like that. And still, after watching this, I have a little bit more respect for a lot of these production companies that do the found footage movies, because it really shows that like at every moment you have to kind of keep things interesting on screen so people don't get bored. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of work that goes into that stuff. Because I was like losing interest a lot, and because a lot of times, like even when they were trying to show you something, it was too dark. And darkness can be an effective, scary tactic, but when it's just two people sitting at a table having a conversation, and I can't really see what's going on or whatever, like you kind of lose interest. But I would say if you haven't seen it, it was on Amazon Prime. Hell House is what it's called. It was creepy. There was a couple parts of the movie where like, someone's filming, like guy's like filming himself talking, and you can see like a red light in the background. Like, so there's like the doorway to the room and it's a red light. And then you can see like nothing but darkness around it. And then you would see like something walk by, you know what I mean? And you could tell it was like, it looked like a woman, like it looked like an old woman in an insane asylum, like frizzy hair or whatever, and he even turned around and spoke to it. And he's like, oh, are you sleepwalking? Are you all right? And it just turned around and like walked away. And he's like, no, that was weird. And it was like, dude, we didn't even see what the fuck it was. You didn't even see what the fuck it was. You know what I mean? That would have, he's like, whatever. And I'm like, if you're so nonchalant about that, how did you guys get freaked out about like the mannequin moved or something like that? Like at no point did they move. There was one that was sitting at a piano and they're all together and someone's playing the piano, right? And they're like, they go running and the piano plays literally until they turn the corner and are looking right at it. And it's just the dummy or the mannequin sitting there at the piano doing nothing, not moving, but the piano was playing. Like, so it was just like, they did a good, again, low budget. You gotta do as much off screen and move things around. Like, when you do that whole, like the mannequin standing there and you turn the camera, what was that? Because the door slammed and turn back and the mannequin's, 2 feet closer. It's like, well, yeah, that's an easy thing to stage, right? Walk around, grab it, move it forward during the, like they did a good job, but it could have been, there's a lot of stuff that I believe on budget that could have been a little bit better. Like I said, they really built it up. in that like we're this big company and we provide the most like exceptional experience, and the way they had like people lined up down the block to come into their haunted house, and then really all it was just a bunch of mannequins and masks inside. Like it was a little far-fetched. It would have been better they could have had the exact same movie, and the premise was like a bunch of college kids wanted to see if they could like make a haunted house and just picked the wrong place to do it in. So it ended more times than it needed to. You know what I mean? Like it could have ended sooner, and instead they just tried to add more, which I didn't really feel like added to it. But anyways, again, these are not trying to be Oscar movies, but it was cool to watch a low budget horror. Normally I would shy away from those, and we're talking like super low budget. So I like that. But having said that, that leads me into my my top 5 for this week. I had a tough time coming up with my top 5 for this week because, like I said, I like them to be kind of ambiguous in the sense that it's not like, hey, here's the top 5 comedies of all time. Hey, here's my top 5 favorite cars. Like those are too broad. And if I'm going to do one every week for the foreseeable future, it's a quick way to run out of topics and stuff. That's why I kind of like the idea of like the top 5 YouTube channels that I watch. And there's already like 2 or 3 that I haven't watched in a long time, but I'm like, fuck, I used to watch those channels all the time since that list, which they still wouldn't have made the list because it is the top 5 channels that I watch. But hey, who knows? In 3 years, maybe I could do that list again and it'll be different. But I remember I was going to do something about vegetables. What are the top 5 vegetables to eat as a side? And then I was like working with like, yeah, but like not this. And I was trying to make rules for it to keep it in one sort of vein. And it just like, and then I'd find something that would kind of break that rule. And I'm like, yeah, but then maybe I'll do one like with that particular rule. It was just weird. But, after thinking about the movie, I was thinking about all these different jump scares and stuff like that in Hell House. And I was like, you know what? Jump scares are a very effective, method to scare you in horror movies. In fact, it seems to be the number one thing that's scary in movies. There are creepy things in movies, but nothing as effective to make an audience scream, as a jump scare. So what I did was I did a list of the top 5 types of jump scares that you get in movies. So that's what my top 5 is, this list. So when I say top 5 jump scares, so I sent it to one person and I said, I'm trying to do like top 5 jump scares. And they started suggesting like an actual like scene in a movie. And I was like, that one's like way too specific. And I would have to like really spend some time if I was to do that. So I actually, as soon as I was like, I'm talking about the actual like method, mechanic, technique jump scare. You know what I mean? Like a set type of jump scare that you see occur very commonly in movies, almost to the point where if you're a horror movie fan and you see them setting it up, you get ready for it. And one of the things that I will even say is that a lot of movies have been setting you up in the old way. And now they're creating new ways of like where they're luring you in to think that they're going to be doing it the old way. And then it ends up being something a little different, which I like too, because you're looking for it one way. And then when it doesn't happen, you're like, okay, but then what? And and then in that moment, then they fucking hit you with it. So, these are my top 5. And I actually, had more than 5. Like it wasn't like I just had to come up with 5 different things. These are not like, hey, here's 5 different types. I actually had about 7 or 8. And I was a little worried at first because I think like the first 3 were like a little like, okay, I got 3. And then I just kind of hit a wall where it's like, oh fuck. And then they started flowing, to the point where I've even like combined a few different types into what I call like one type. So we're gonna do from here. So if you are a horror movie fan, or if you were thinking like, I kind of like horror movies, but I don't like getting scared. Well, here's the top 5 types of jump scares in movies. So number 5 is the like electronic scare. Okay. So like, it'll be like a tense moment. It'll be really quiet or whatever. And then the TV or the radio will come on and like, it's usually loud, or a phone will ring. You know what I mean? Or a toy, like an electronic toy will start. There's a lot of times where, like a fire truck or something will just come on and start driving. So the jump scare method is the electronics, right? So a phone rings, and that's all, and then you can always tell the volume is always amped up. It always gets very, very quiet. And then the jump scare that scares you is like the phone or the TV comes on or the radio or whatever. Now, most of the times it's like a supernatural TV came on, radio came on, and it's just playing whatever it would be playing. But, you know, the telephone one is sometimes someone's calling them. And then and there's a lot of scenes where that'll be the end. When it's the telephone, like someone calls and someone hears something in the yard and they're looking around. And like, oh God, oh hell, and then the movie moves on. It gave you the scare, nothing happened, but it scared the shit out of you because the phone came on or whatever it is, which happens to all of us. Goddamn doorbell here is so fucking loud. We've got like one of those Ring doorbells, and I gotta plug a speaker into my wall here, and then that thing goes on sometimes. It's so fucking loud, scares the shit out of me. Something that scares the shit out of me in my room all the time is the podcast when it's done downloading. When I'm done putting it through Auphonic, I hit download, and then sometimes it takes a little while to download onto the computer, but as soon as it's done downloading, it automatically opens Apple Music and starts playing. So like I'll do it and I'll be sitting here like writing down my little notes, like, you know, for the write up of the podcast, or, you know, starting to set up next week's note or whatever. And I forget what I'm doing like on the computer side. So like I'll just be sitting here like, hey, onesies, it scares the shit out of me. I jump. Like I know what it is instantly, but it scares the shit out of me. Like someone is right beside me in the room because the computer's right there. And like that. So again, that electronic jump scare, that audio that you're not expecting, great technique. That's number 5. 4 is the car window jump scare. So you guys know what I'm talking about, where like someone's sitting in their car and they're doing something, and then all of a sudden like, hey, bang, 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 bang on the window. Hey, it's used all the time. Often it's never anything dangerous. You know what I mean? Like your protagonist is not actually being attacked. It's just fucking bang, 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 bang. Oh, right there. They're looking at something. Maybe they just got back in the car after grabbing a pivotal piece of information about so-and-so was released and they never found it. And then the music's all, oh my God, like I'm just realizing, bang, bang, bang. Like, and it scares the shit. It scares the audience, right? That's the whole idea. And it's often the shot, like as if the camera was resting in the passenger seat, sort of looking up over them so that the window's in frame. Like I've started to notice that in horror movies. You watch enough of them, like even when the shot is framed a certain way, when there's too much empty space on the screen and you're like, something's going to happen over there. Go look in the background. Look how much empty room is in the hallway. Something's going to fucking happen in the hallway. You know what I mean? Like when you see the framed shot on the car window, you know what I mean? Like someone could be doing something. You're just like, it looks like it's going to. So see, it's usually the camera's set up outside the car, looking through just the driver's side window, you know, at them. There's a lot of them, and then just bang, boom, there's a person right in the shot, like bang, bang, and you're like, oh, you know, or alternatively, it's on the lap, and then that thing just comes sliding past the rear part, bang, bang, bang in the frame. So that one is one that happens a lot. Someone is in the car doing something, and then just the bang, 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 bang on the window scares. That's a very common jump scare in horrors. Number 3, I call this one the in-bed scare, because this one, and I'm sure there's other ways of it that I haven't. So this is one that I cheated a little bit, because there's a few different types of scares that are done frequently, and I'm not sure one necessarily ranks above the other. So I kind of put it all into this, you're in bed and there's something there scare. All right. But it happens. You usually know which type it's going to be just based on the scene, but, and you're very vulnerable when you're in bed. Right. So I call it the in-bed scare, because there's like that scare where it's like the camera is looking on, like it's like sitting on their chest and it's looking down at the foot of the bed, and that whole, like, you know, something's there, you know what I mean? So like the jump scare where it's kind of like, you know, the camera slowly starts going towards the edge of the bed, and you're like, any second it's going to pop up and you can't get ready for it. You're getting ready for it, but you don't know exactly when it's going to happen. There's that one. There's the one where they're in bed and they're looking around the room and there's like a dark spot and it's like something standing there in the dark. And I call it the jump scare because like that's just creepy in and of itself, but usually that thing will like pop out or whatever. So that's a big jump scare that tends to happen. And then alternatively, there's the one that I call the under the bed scare. And this is, in my opinion, one of those examples of how it evolved. You know what I mean? Because it used to be that, like, you know, somebody would assume there was something under the bed, and then you have them slowly leaning over the bed and just kind of looking top down, just a slight crack acknowledgement that there's room under the bed. And then there's that shot where, you know, you see from the under the bed perspective, and you just see the head kind of looking down underneath the bed. And then, of course, the camera turns and you're just looking at the darkness under the bed. And it used to be that was the moment something would pop out and the jump scare would come from that. And then they started to develop the whole, you know, okay, like there's like the biggest thing with the jump scare is like making you feel safe, right? To drop your guard to really scare you. They developed that whole like look under the bed and then it jumps out and gets you. They would take longer for the thing to get you or whatever. Then it switched that under the bed scare switched from it jumps out at you when you're looking under the bed to look under the bed, you know, maybe even shine a little flashlight or if there's enough light, it's like you see there's nothing there, like, oh, the relief. And they'd like lean back down in bed. And then the camera just pins to the side slightly and it's sitting right there in bed next to them. You know what I mean? Like, I remember that specifically in Ernest Scared Stupid, which was a comedy, but the little girl like thinks Trantor's under her bed and she looks under her bed and she lays down. She's like, and then rolls over and it's face to face with her in her bed. But that was an example of how it evolved. The jump used to come from when they were looking under the bed to now it's like, no, it's never going to be under the bed. You lean back in bed, lay down, and then it's right fucking there, right in the bed. Boom, there's the scare. That was number 3. Number 2. All right. Number 2, jump scare technique. Closing the bathroom mirror or the fridge door. You know the one, right? They're looking in the mirror in the bathroom, right? They open the mirror, right? To grab the mouthwash or whatever it is and fucking swish, 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 spit, splash them on their face, close the mirror, boom, something's behind them. Or they themselves look different in their own reflection. They look all fucked up or whatever it is. That's like, I would imagine any horror fan, you're looking for that right away. And like I said, in fact, they're getting to the point where like they do it in movies now and nothing happens because you're on edge waiting for it. Like I think that's one of the things I find so cool is that like they know what the audience is expecting, so they can make you uncomfortable getting ready for a scare that just doesn't happen. You know what I mean? It's almost like they get you twice. Like they get you when you're looking under the bed, and then they get you again when it's laying in the bed next to them. Anyway, so now I'm referring to the actual jump scares themselves. I'm not referring to methods of scaring you in movies, because that could be a completely different list. But I'm talking about the jump scares themselves. So the effective jump scares is the close the mirror and boom, there's something right there. That jumps and scares you. Same as like the walking out to the kitchen. They're standing in front of the fridge and there's obviously nothing there. They open the fridge, look in, and when they close the door, something is occupying the space that the fridge door was blocking, whatever. So that blocked, and then boom, you know, that's a very, very classic. And in the number one jump scare technique is everybody knows that when you're watching the scary movie or whatever it is, the scary music plays, right? The scary music plays, the tension of the music builds up. And it used to end right at the height of the music was when the thing would pop out, right? You never knew when exactly the height of the music was going to be, but there was even just like a musical wah at the end, like like that. I guess like, well, it wasn't a great example, but like, and then the music fades out and you're like, oh, but right at that height, that crescendo was when the thing would pop out to meet the cue of the music. And, you know, everyone, how many times people said, oh, the scary music's playing. It's the music. Oh, something's going to happen. The music's playing. You know what I mean? Like, and then it was like, you know, gets to the top, boom, jump scare. Now, so coming in number one is the 4 to 5 seconds after the music stops scare, right? Where it's like, you've learned that, like, you know, that top of the music and it gets to the end and nothing happens. So you can breathe a sigh of relief because there's nothing's going to bang. There it is. There, and it jumps it. So that's what I find to be the number one most, is like the old trained way of like waiting for the music. And now I start to look for that too, is the whole, like, you know, the music stops and nothing's happened and it's trying to make you feel like you're safe. You can let your guard down because the music's over and nothing happened. But then the jump, so that one can happen in any capacity, but I think that is a whole, you know, making you feel tense, like something's going to happen, and then it doesn't. And then bang, 4 or 5 seconds later, just at that part where you're like, I don't think something's going to happen. And then bang, it hits you. That is the number one, jump scare method that I've noticed in movies, not by my opinion. I've got other ones that were on the list. I'd love to know yours. I'd love to know what were your, you know, top 5 anything. Tell me what you like. If you like my list, give me your top 5 version of the same thing. If you have your own list, send it in to me. Mark, my buddy Mark sent me an email. I'm going to read it. He has got a top 10 request. So I will read that now. I'm just trying to fucking pull it up. Fucking? Why do you say fucking, Josh? Not necessary. Mark writes, good afternoon, Josh. Wanted to weigh in on last week's episode regarding your top 5 segment. Love this edition of the podcast. I found your recommendation of Kyrgyzstan in a nutshell particularly interesting. I've added this YouTube channel to my subscription. Awesome. I'm glad you're checking them out. I love them as well. I have a top 5 request for you. What has been your top 5 strip club moments and what made them memorable? I look forward to your response. Your faithful listener, Mark. Mark, I appreciate that. And since I don't have anything for next week, that's the one. When I first read your email, I wrote down top 5 strip club moments just so that I'd have them, like written down to remember to keep that on my mind. And I've already written like 7 down, so I'll have to plan that down. Now I'm gonna, after saying that, I'm like, you guys know me. You request it, I aim to please. I will say, I don't like strip clubs. Never really been a fan. Obviously, like the first time I went to one, it was like fun, but I don't know, the type of person that I am. I don't think it's fun paying a lot of money for shitty beer. Like, do I like women naked? Yeah, yes, I do. But I don't like, let's put it this way. I like being genuine. The strip club is an incredibly disingenuous place. You know what I mean? Their whole job is to bilk you out of as much money as possible, make you think that you're confusing your body sexually. Every cue your body is getting is like, we're going to have sex. So like, you're paying a shitload of money to give yourself blue balls. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. You know what I mean? And at the same time too, like, would you really, like, let's just pretend that you actually believe that you're going to have sex with one of these women. You really want to have sex with some stranger you just met in a sex place? I don't know. That's odd to me. So just, to me, I just didn't like the phoniness. You know what I mean? I've watched several documentaries on strip clubs because I find them interesting. Like, I'd love to know how they work just like from a business standpoint, right? You hear all these stories about, all the strippers are on coke and they're all whores and they're turning tricks in the back. Are you? You know, because actually, like, this wouldn't have made my top 10 or top 5 list, but my friend knew like a couple girls in high school that stripped. You know what I mean? And apparently I knew some people. Apparently I didn't know that they were strippers. It's like so-and-so would just be like, hey, remember so-and-so? I'm like, yeah. They're like, yeah, they're a stripper. I'm like, oh, okay. That sucks. I thought it was only like extremely broken people, right? Or just college girls just trying to pay their way or whatever the fuck it is. I don't know. I just don't like it. It makes me sad, but I'm fascinated by it, right? Because it's like, well, I'm pretty sure those people that I knew were not like coked out prostitutes or whatever it is. Like, I'm sure there's got to be something to it. And in that curiosity in and of itself makes me want to ask questions and stuff. But so I'm fascinated by it, but in terms of allure, no. I know there's guys who like the strippers or whatever. It's like, yeah, naked ladies, but there's porn and sex is actually happening there and you're not paying for it and all sorts of stuff. Like, it just, yeah, I don't know. Not my thing. But have I been to strip clubs? Yes. I think I've been to strip clubs. Like, I had to do soul searching to be like, have I been to strip clubs like more than 10 times in my life, which maybe to some would be like 10 times, but like, yeah, there's times where you're with your buddies in high school and they're like, want to go to strip clubs. I would say the vast majority of it happened when I was a kid. I don't think I've been to a strip club in 10 years or more, maybe 15 years. Oh, no, not 15, not 15. That may be one of my stories that I tell. So, but I mean, these are more like weird shit that happened at a strip club stories. Like I can tell you that already. Like, again, I know the one. So like me going to strip club, here's the more memorable things that I can remember. And none of them will be sexy. I can tell you that right now. But Mark, you asked and ye shall receive, because I aim to please onesies. Hope you guys have a great week. Remember, contact at onemanpodcast.com. You can send me your top 5 from what we read, right? So this week was top 5 types of jump scares in movies. I'm thinking too, like if I do like horror movie stuff, I'd love to keep it thematic and maybe save it for like October or whatever. But, just whatever you're into. I don't give a fuck. Like the more silly and odd that we can make these, the better. Like I'm down for it. And of course I would like to ask, it's not mandatory, but I would like to ask, if you have an idea, if you want me to give you a top 5 of something, feel free to send in your top 5 while you're at it. Now, in Mark's case, a lot of guys might not want to, admit to going to the strip club and stuff like that. So that's fine. So just know too, you can send me a request and your list and just tell me to make it anonymous. I won't say your name. So if you're worried about me reading your shit, maybe you listen with your significant other and you're like, I don't want them to know. Just send it to me anonymously. I'll read it. I know that you guys will ask me fucked up stuff because I'll talk about it. So, yeah. That's it. Contact at onemanpodcast.com. Send me whatever you want. Or just send me whatever stories, whatever you got going on. Give me shit about the intermittent fasting. Give me shit about whatever else. If you have a micro penis and you're looking for support. Like that was the funniest thing reading the articles I was reading today was like, it's like, how does having a micro penis affect the person and their families? And I was like, their families? There's Jane. She's the mother of that micro penis boy. But it was so funny. It's like what to do about it. And it was just like, basically like, it was just like, if you have a micro penis, there's nothing you can do about it. My understanding too is like, it's small when it's soft and when it's hard. You know what I mean? Guy gets excited and a little fucking matchstick stands up in his pants. Fuck, am I ever grateful. I can only joke about this because of the fact that I'm a quote unquote grower. And that stuff came up in those articles too. It's like, if you're just a small when you're flaccid, you don't have a micro penis. And I was like, oh, again, I was hoping I could check off a box on a job application. So yeah, send me whatever the fuck it is that you want to talk about. I was saying how like it said that really the only thing you could do about it was therapy. Like find a support group, find a way of coping. Like that's it. It's just like shrug your shoulders. Like, sorry, buddy. Sorry there, toothpick. I don't know. Fuck. Listen, if you're listening and you have a micro penis, I'm so sorry. Please. Oh God, I'll be anonymous. Talk to me about it. Tell me what you do. If you can do it, you know what I mean? I hope you're not standing on a fucking milk crate in your garage about to hang yourself based on the shit I said. But I just mean like, I would be really fascinated to hear from someone who actually has a micro penis. Like, yeah, I got as Mika would say, a baby dick all the time, 24/7. That's weird. Oh, I'm thinking weird stuff. I'm thinking like you jerk yourself off with a Cheerio or whatever. I'm an idiot. Okay. That's like your pocket. Come on, Josh. That's ridiculous. You stick a fucking Cheerio in the end of a straw and it's like a fleshlight for you. Jesus Christ. That's so stupid. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening. Hey, just thought I'd throw it out there. One Man Podcast still have a few, little handful of them, collector's boxes left. Like I said, original value was like $150, which I brought down to a $125. Now clearance $100. So you get 10 items, hats, shirts. You guys know what it is. If you've been on the fence, pick one up. If you got money burning a hole in your pocket, you won't regret it. Get them the fuck out of here. I need them. I need the space back. And there's nothing going on. Come on. Hit me up. But anyways, the email address, the boxes are still available. Anything you guys want to talk about, let me know. Thank you so much for listening. I really thought I had nothing to talk about this week, and here we are 2 hours and 11 minutes in, according to this. Thanks for listening, gang. I will chat with you again soon.